The Wafat Masjid, right? At what time?
4:30.
Oh, straight after namaz. Okay. محمد وآل محمد صلوات. اے باد صبا جا کے یہ اموں کو بتانا، پیاسی ہے سکینہ. اے باد صبا جا کے یہ اموں کو بتانا، پیاسی ہے سکینہ. اس چھوٹے سے سن میں یہ ستم میں نے اٹھائے، اللہ کسی کو نہ یتیم ایسا بنائے، خود اپنے لہو میں کوئی بچی نہ نہائے. میں تم کو بلاتی رہی تم بھی تو نہ آئے، میں بن گئی بعد عصر لعینوں کا نشانہ، پیاسی ہے سکینہ. پانی کی طلب مجھ کو کھلاتی رہی ٹھوکر، کہتا تھا لئی دوں گا میں فوجوں کو پلا کر، جب شمر لئی کر چکا سیراب یہ لشکر، دکھلا کے مجھے پھینک دیا پانی زمین پر، تب سمجھی میں کیا ہوتا ہے امید دلانا، پیاسی ہے سکینہ. ایک رسی میں ہم سب کے گلے باندھ کے آداب کرتے ہوئے تشہیر چلے جانب کوفہ، اور اس پہ مصیبت یہ تھی قد چھوٹا تھا میرا، اٹھتی تھی جو پھوپھیاں تو گھلا کھنچتا تھا میرا، گردن کا میرے زخم چچا دیکھنے آنا،
प्यासी है सकीना ए बाद सवा जाके ये अम्मू को बताना प्यासी है सकीना रहमल्लाह मन यक़रा अल-फ़ातिहा
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله ثم الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا محمد بن عبد الله وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق وهو أصدق الصادقين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم. My respected scholars, elders, brothers, sisters, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given this beautiful life. For some, it's short-lived. For others, they managed to spend this life with a few more years. What is strange about this life is that He has kept the final unknown. That when a mother goes through 9 months of labor, 9 months of weaning the child, 9 months of keeping the child in her stomach, and then she goes through the pangs of labor, finally after these 9 months, when she holds the child for the first time in her hands, she has no idea whether or not the child can see properly. That will take some time to be tested. Whether or not the child can hear, whether or not the child has the ability of taste and touch and smell. The only certainty after these 9 months, when she finally holds her child for the first time, is that this child one day will return back to where it came from. That there will be a time that will be destined for this child to return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala reminds us in the Quran about respect that you and I should have to many different individuals from the Prophet in the Quran. He alludes to the Imam alayhimus salam in the Quran. But very rarely does Allah include a group of people other than the Prophet in the same sentence as him. It's probably the only verse in the Quran where Allah talks about His worship and without a break in the sentence continues to another group of individuals talking about the respect that you should have for them. Where He says in the Quran, وَقَضَى رَبُّكَ أَن لَا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا إِيَّاهُ, and your Lord has destined, He's decreed for you that you must never worship anyone other than Him. And He doesn't stop the sentence. It's not another verse. It's the same verse that continues and He says, وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا, and that you have to do good to your parents. It's not a choice that man or woman has. It's not limited by age. that when you get to a certain age, now you don't have to do good to them. It's not just respect. He says he's brought everything under this one banner of doing good. It means the way you look at them. It means the way in which you speak to them, how you take care of them. From the Prophet's tradition, you know very well that even the way in which you gaze and you look at your parents is going to be written down. Where the Prophet says if one even looks at their parents with a stern look, frowns at their parents, then the sins that are written down for such an individual. When Allah continues in this verse, He only shows us one aspect of that respect. Probably the most difficult time. When we're young, we depend on them a great deal. And so it's but natural that you will never bite the hand that feeds you. You will always respect the parent that looks after you and nurtures you. When you become a bit more independent, you might live away from them. There might not be that much communication with them. But the time where it may be most difficult for one to be good to their parents is the one that Allah singles out in the Quran. And He says, if one of them or both of them become of old age. It's at that time where naturally human beings tend to be taken by certain difficulties, health difficulties, financial difficulties. They now need to depend on you. Allah says if one or both of them become of old age, then ensure that you don't even say uff to them. The famous verse that we recite. Uff here doesn't mean that you say a word to them or don't say a word. It's not even an expression. It's not even a full word. It doesn't have a meaning to it. It means that if they ask something of you, or they say something to you, or they act in a fashion that is strange for you, or they repeatedly say the same thing over and over again, then your duty as this individual who has been nurtured by them and looked after by them is that you don't have the right even to have an expression of dismay coming from your mouth, even if it's not a full word. And then he continues and he says in the most beautiful fashion, وَاخْفِضْ لَهُمَا جَنَاحَ الذُّلِّ مِنَ الرَّحْمَةِ. He says, and lower your wing of humility for them. Not only by action, but I want it by speech as well. I want you to be humble in front of them at all times, specifically when they become old. Because when they become old, now the tables will turn and now you will need to go the extra mile for them. Before they were looking after you. Without you asking for them, they were giving to you. Now without them having to ask, you should be a step ahead of them as they were for you. Asking them if they need before they have to stretch out their hands, just like they did for you. So lower your wing of humility towards them. وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِي صَغِيرًا. And pray for them and ask Allah to have mercy on them, just as they had mercy on you when they were nurturing you. The external society that we live in tends to encourage parents to push their children out of their homes by the age of 18. It's seen as fakhr and it's seen as something of pride for a parent that their child has left their home at the age of 18 and started their own life and begins to work, doesn't live with them anymore, and the parents get the independence that they've been looking for. It's no strange act then that when those same parents who have been looking forward to pushing their children out of the house, that later on when the parents now need the children, now the children are not there to be seen. Now those same children have started their own life with their own families and don't want to know those parents. Islam, on the other hand, teaches something very different. It teaches us that where possible, you need to ensure that you're continuously keeping with your blood relatives. And from the best of them and the highest of them is going to be your parents. To the extent that the Prophet says, even if you have to travel a journey of 2 years. And for us, we can travel everywhere today within a few hours, maximum a few days. The Prophet says, even if it takes a journey of 2 years, so that you keep with your next of kin and with your relatives, then make sure you do that. There should be no excuse for us today not to keep with our parents, because it's very easy to do so. Concluding on this issue of parents, the Prophet has a beautiful tradition in which he tells us that even after your parents pass away, your duty as a child doesn't cease. It's very easy to think that once a parent has been buried, once a parent is no longer with me, then my duty to that parent is no longer present. A strange hadith but very powerful. The Prophet says, how many children have been disowned by their parent when the parent was alive? but after their death, they own them again. You know, for the one who's been disowned by his parent, the Prophet says, "If'al ma shit." Go and do whatever you want, because nothing's going to be accepted from you. The fact that this soft heart of a father or of a mother came to the stage where they didn't want to even own you as a child anymore, you must have done a grave sin. Provided, obviously, it's within the bounds of the Sharia that they're disowning a child. The Prophet says, do what you wish, because nothing is going to be accepted from you. Strangely, he says, there are some children in the lifetime of the parent loves them, they're with them. But after the parent passes away, the parent disowns them. And then there are a group of children who are disowned by the parent in their lifetime, but when the parent passes away, they ask God to bring the child back. And then he explains why. He says there are a group of children that whilst the parent was alive did what they did, sins, but when the parent passed away, they paid their debts and they sought God for the forgiveness of those parents. And the parents' books are closed now in the grave. They're seeking and waiting for gifts to come. For that child who's left behind seeking forgiveness for the parent says, oh God, I want him or her back. But then the opposite is true. There were children who were good to their parents in the lifetime of the parents. But when the parents passed away, then they forgot them. They hardly went to their grave. They hardly remembered them even in their own households, in their own gatherings, around their own tables. They forgot their mention. It would come maybe once a year on their death anniversary, if that. For that child, the Prophet says that the parent says, oh God, disown this child from me. Because how long did it take for him to forget me or her to forget me? 80 years, 70 years. We were together 50 years. And then what? It took a year or two and they indulged themselves in the beauties of the dunya and their own family, such they forgot those who nurtured them with their own two hands. They forgot that parent who would wake up in the night in order to give them medicine. They forgot that parent who wouldn't sleep at night praying to God that remove this illness from my child. They forgot all of this. And just because they buried me, they buried my thought as well. It reminds us of the duty that we have to our parents, even if they're not physically with us anymore. Finally, I end by reminding us of the verse of the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that these tests where people will pass away are but natural and they'll happen to just about everyone. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ We will most surely test you. بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ God says the first thing I'll test man with is fear. From the time when they're young, they start fearing different things. I'll test man with fear. وَالْجُوعِ I'll test his principles. I'll make him hungry. And I'll test to what extent he's willing to go to sell himself and his principles. How much will it take for him to sell his principles and do something outside of my bounds, something I'm displeased with? I'll test him with hunger. وَنَقْسٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ I'll test him by depleting his wealth, taking it away. I want to see, will he remain a principal man or woman? Or when all of a sudden I make his wealth difficult to attain, will he start to cut corners and go against the Sharia in order to earn more? Which will it be? Does he want to live a certain lifestyle, and when it becomes difficult, he's willing to turn a blind eye to morality in order to bring about more wealth inside his family? وَالْأَنفُسِ And I'm going to test him by removing those who are close to him, وَالثَّمَرَاتِ and the fruits of his life. Fruits of his life tend to be his children. I'm going to test him by taking away siblings, uncles, aunts, parents, and also by taking away the fruits of his life. And you know the only group of people who will be given good tidings from all of these individuals who are tested? Allah says, وَبَشِّرَ الصَّابِرِينَ And I say good tidings and congratulations only to that group who are going to show patience. Naturally, when we come across a death in the community within our families, it's not only the family members who are grieved, but also the extended community. Marhuma, Kheirunisa, as you very well know, and as you've heard from people around in the Leicester community, she was a lady, I can attest, when she used to come home, would always be smiling. Would never see Ma ever frown or be upset. She was always smiling. And from the time she walked in the house, she had a smile on her face. She would always she would never come empty-handed. As you know, she loved cooking, and she was a great cook in that as well. And she seems to have touched many people's hearts because of her nature of always being a charismatic woman who was always laughing and smiling. As the Prophet says, Al-mu'min hashum bash. A mu'min should always be laughing and smiling. Always, when you look at a mu'min, you should feel warm as well by seeing them smile all the time. When she would come, she would never come empty-handed, always bring immense amount of food with her. And young and old remember her today. Today we have young and old sitting here coming from different cities because of the fact that this lady, despite the generation gap that may have been there and the age gap that may have been there, touched people's hearts. This is a testament to her upbringing and then obviously her steadfast nature on the path of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. We not only ask Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala for her sake today, but we also ask for her family. Undoubtedly it's a difficult time. And so when you pray today after Salatul Maghrib, not only pray for her, but also pray that Allah engulfs her family, near and dear ones, with patience so that they can bear this loss. Allow me to end by reminding us of a mother who nurtured a child or children and had one aim for them, not from primary sources, but I mention otherwise. That Zainab alayha salam had a desire on the day of Ashura that she had come with 2 soldiers as well, Awn and Muhammad. They hadn't even reached the age of bulugh. And you find a poet writes about this conversation that may have taken place in a tent the night before Ashura. He says Zainab called her children and she asked Awn and Muhammad to come into the tent. She made them sit down. She said, "Oh my dear children, jihad is not wajib upon you. You haven't reached the age such that fighting tomorrow and waging war for God and protecting my brother is not incumbent upon you. But I just want to mention one thing to you from the heart of a mother to the heart of a child. That tomorrow, if I see that you are still alive and breathing and in good health, and I see that my brother, my Imam and your Imam Husayn has been slain, then I will no longer be a proud mother." These young children who were sitting in front of her, they were on the edge of their seats waiting to say something. As soon as their mother stopped the sentence, they wanted to reply to her. As she stopped, they replied and said, "Oh my mother, do you not know who we are? You have forgotten. We are the ones who have been trained by Abbas. We are the ones whose ancestry goes back to Ja'far al-Tayyar. We are waiting, O mother, for tomorrow's sunrise to occur such that we can then defend our Imam and your brother Husayn ibn Ali alayhi salam." On the day of Ashura, these 2 boys, they left the camp together. Awn on one horse, Muhammad on the other. Abbas and Husayn alayhim salam assisting these 2 young children to mount their horse, wear the armor, take a sword, go into the battlefield, fight as courageously as 2 young boys could possibly fight. What's strange is when their bodies were brought back to the tent. You would expect this mother to be wailing and crying when she sees their slain bodies. You would expect this mother to be lost for words and just wail non-stop. But rather it says that when these 2 bodies were brought to the tent and placed in front of her, Zainab went down on her knees, raising her hands towards Allah. And she cried out and she says, "Allahumma taqabbal minni hadha al-qurban." Oh Allah, I ask you to please accept this small sacrifice from me that I've given to you today. We ask Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala with the blessings of this gathering, with the recitations that have taken place, that Allah gives the thawab to Marhuma Kheirunisa. May Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala forgive her her sins, elevate her station, and give her a beautiful garden next to the gardens of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. We ask Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala to engulf her family and friends with sabr and patience such that they can bear this loss of this great individual. وآخر الدعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
Assalamu alaikum. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. We're definitely in a state of grief. Next to the love that I ever had from my late mother was the love from this Marhuma who passed away today. To me, she's my mother-in-law, but always gave me the love of a mother to a son. The importance of a mother is in this famous hadith when Nabi Musa went to Kohitur. And Allah tells Nabi Musa, "Oh Musa, your journey up here was wonderful, but your journey way down now will be a bit difficult." So Musa asked, "Ya Allah, why?" Allah tells him, "When you came up, the du'as of your mother were with you, but on your way up here, your mother passed away. So you're going down now, those du'as are not there, so it's going to be a bit difficult." So you see the value and the importance given to the du'as from a mother. Even Sheikh just mentioned about the love and respect of parents. I'm standing here to fulfill a very important duty here tonight. Just a short word of appreciation. I'd be failing on my duty if I did not do this. On behalf of my wife Fatima and myself, first and foremost I would like to thank the Leicester Jamaat for having done such a wonderful job in organizing everything that they've done, and in particular having been sharing so much of love and assisting my late mother-in-law and my father-in-law Anwar Bhai in every possible way. Secondly, the members of this Jamaat have been excellent. Time and again, my mother-in-law always used to tell me, in particularly the ladies of this community were in great love with her. Even the Sheikh just mentioned this. And during these 7 or 8 months of her hospitalization, ladies used to visit her and have supported her in every way. So thank you so much to the Leicester Jamaat and the community members of Leicester for having extended all this support to my mother-in-law, late mother-in-law, and my father-in-law. Thirdly, there are a lot of individuals who have helped in many different ways. We had excellent support from the family of my wife, excellent support from the family members from my side. But if you tell them thank you, they said, "No, this was our duty." Fine, but still we need to say thank you so much to you all. In particular, one of my wife's masters, who spent endless time staying with her throughout her journey here. My wife had to travel and be here with her mother, which was a blessing. This is a gift which very few are gifted in life, to be with your parents until they leave and begin their new journey. So best thanks to Khurshid Masi for all the time she has devoted. And of course, Shokat Mama and everybody else. Lastly but not least, this is in particular, I just don't have the words to express. This comes both from my wife Fatima and myself. We've all heard and we all know, the narrations are there, Sheikh, that the angels, when you're in the grave, they're angels. When you're up in Jannah, they're angels. They're angels everywhere. But for us, for me and Fatima, we have seen an angel, a God-given gift angel in life, and that is here. And the angel is none other than Jibreel. I'll be failing on my duty. I may have promised him that I'll never make this public, but I could not resist. I'd be failing on my duty. Jibreel and his wife Sajida Bai and the children extended extraordinary support to my mother-in-law and my father-in-law, and during the time of her sickness. And this is why I tell Jibreel that if my mother-in-law deserves a son, then you are the first son and I'll be second online, So Jibreel, I may have promised you I won't say this, but I have to do it, Jibreel. I have, otherwise my conscience would kill me. You know, I had told my mother-in-law that the right time will come and I will thank Jibreel for whatever he has done. And Jibreel is the name of an angel. And I tell you, this is a God-given angel. This is a God-given gift as an angel to the family of Marhuma. He has been extra helpful in every manner, you know. And I do not want to say how much he has done, but him, Sajid Abai, and the children and his whole family have extended excellent support. In the end, thank you very much to each and every one of you for having attended. Yeah, your attendance means du'as for the Marhuma. So inshallah, keep her in your prayers. Thank you very much.
Let us remember the Marhuma with the Surah Mubarakatul Fatiha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-Alamin ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Malik yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim. Tawajjuh ziyarat. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني جميعا السلام الله أبدا ما بكيت وبكي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا غريب الغرباء السلطان أبا الحسن مولانا علي بن موسى الرضا. كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا مولانا يا صاحب العصر والزمان. السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن. السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن. السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان. عجل الله تعالى فرجك وسهل الله مخرجك وزهورك وجعلنا من أنصارك وشيعتك وزوارك ومحبيك. السلام عليكم يا شهداء كربلاء جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرزك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على وارواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات. الثواب الفاتحة.